Rory McIlroy was supposed to be inevitable. On paper, he is not just the defending champion at Augusta in 2026. He is the completed story. The man who spent over a decade chasing the one title that kept slipping away finally caught it. Career. Grand Slam is no longer a dream deferred. It is fact. And when a player of his caliber removes the last missing piece, something fundamental shifts. He is no longer hunting greatness. He's standing on top of it. He arrived at Augusta this year. Different. Not louder, not sharper, just lighter. For years, this course followed him like a shadow he could never shake. Every return carried the same questions, the same memories, the same suffocating weight. The collapse in 2011, the Sunday back nines, that unraveled in slow motion, the pressure that compounded with every near miss. Augusta was never just a tournament for Rory McIlroy. It was a recurring test he could not walk away from until now. Because in 2026, for the first time in his professional life, that weight is completely gone. People have described him as unburdened, but that word does not fully capture what is actually happening. This is not relief. This is freedom. His swing looks effortless. His decisions come faster. There is no hesitation, no second guessing, no creeping fear of what might unravel on the back nine Sunday afternoon. He is not out here trying to prove a single thing, and that version of Rory McIlroy is the one every other player in the field fears the most, because when pressure disappears, instinct takes over. And instinct is precisely where greatness lives. This is the quiet paradox of Augusta National. The course that once exposed every crack in his game is now facing a player. With nothing left to lose, Rory without pressure is more dangerous than Rory chasing it. He does not need this win, does not need validation from anyone. And that is exactly what makes him feel untouchable right now. Because when a player of his caliber starts playing with genuine freedom, the whole game begins to look unfair. But Augusta has never once cared about momentum. It does not reward comfort. It punishes it. The course has a way of finding the exact moment confidence, tips into assumption, and then it collects. For 15 years, Rory McIlroy was the chaser. Every April, he walked through those gates, carrying the same mission. Finish the story, complete the Grand Slam, silence the doubt once and for all. He was the one hunting history, the one reaching for something that always seemed to drift, just beyond his fingertips. That chase defined him in ways that went far deeper than golf. It gave him purpose. It sharpened his focus. It turned the heaviest pressure imaginable into fuel. But in 2026, that dynamic has flipped entirely. Of course. Rory McIlroy is no longer chasing the Masters. The Masters is chasing him. This is the part that rarely gets discussed honestly. Winning does not remove pressure. It transforms it into something more complex and harder to manage. When you are chasing, failure carries a kind of built-in grace. There is freedom in being the underdog. You can take risks without catastrophic consequences. You can recover from a bad round and come back the following April and try again. But once you have already won, once you have already proven everything the world asked of you, the entire equation changes beneath your feet. Now every round is about preservation. Every mistake feels heavier than it should. Every leaderboard movement feels more personal because you are no longer building something from scratch. You are protecting something you already built. And in 2026, the stakes are even more significant than that. Back-to-back Masters victories are rare territory, historic territory, the kind of achievement that does not simply define a season, but reshapes a legacy permanently. Rory is not just playing to win. He is playing to cement something that will outlast all of us. And that kind of expectation does not quietly fade into the background. It evolves, slowly, relentlessly, without announcing itself, because freedom at this level is never absolute. It always comes with a hidden cost attached. The weight may be gone, but the spotlight has never burned brighter. The pressure might feel lighter, but the consequences have never been bigger. Rory McIlroy may look completely at ease walking these fairways, but every single player in the field is now measuring themselves against him. He has become the standard, the target, the man everyone believes they must beat to win this tournament. And being the target is an entirely different game than being the hunter. So the real question is not whether Rory can win again. The question is whether he can handle everything that comes with being considered unstoppable. Because when the chase is finally over and the dream is fully complete, something else quietly takes its place. Something harder to name. Something more dangerous than any pressure he has faced before. What happens to a competitor of his intensity when the hunger that drove every decision for over a decade is suddenly gone? Every great story needs a disruption. At Augusta in 2026, that disruption has a very specific name: Scottie Scheffler. While Rory McIlroy arrives as the defending champion, walking these grounds with a lightness he has never known before, Scheffler arrives as something altogether more unsettling. The world number one, the most consistent player of professional golf, has produced in years. It's a betting favorite across every major sports book in the country. He is not chasing a moment. He is controlling one. And that makes him the one variable Rory simply cannot predict or neutralize, because Scheffler does not play golf the way Rory does. Rory is momentum and emotion and explosion. When he gets hot, the golf course feels too small to contain what he is doing. But Scheffler is the complete opposite of all that. He does not surge, he suffocates. Fairways, greens, putts, over and over again, round after round, with a consistency that borders on mechanical. There are no wild swings, no chaos, just quiet pressure that builds steadily until it becomes impossible to escape. He does not need brilliance to win a major, just needs you to make a mistake somewhere along the way. Eventually, under enough sustained pressure, everyone does. That is precisely what makes this matchup so uncomfortable for Rory. Freedom thrives in chaos. But Scheffler removes chaos from the equation entirely. He turns Augusta National into a methodical math problem solved one decision at a time. Emotion, no panic, no drama, just relentless execution of the same process repeated until the tournament is his. And while Rory is out here playing with nothing left to prove, Scheffler is playing with something sharper than motivation. He is playing with focus. It's the kind that does not drift under pressure. The kind that does not forgive a single lapse in concentration. And then there is the human layer that makes Scheffler even more formidable this particular week. Just days before arriving at Augusta, he became a father again. In a sport where mental clarity means everything, that kind of profound life shift can either pull your attention in a dozen different directions or center you more completely than anything else possibly could. For Scheffler, it looks unmistakably like the latter. He is not just playing for trophies or rankings or validation from the media. He is playing with genuine purpose. And purpose at the highest level of professional sports is a weapon most opponents never figure out how to defend against. You do not beat Scottie Scheffler with brilliance. You beat him by being absolutely perfect for 4 consecutive days. Perfect is nearly impossible to sustain at Augusta. This is the story everything else revolves around. Rory McIlroy, the man who finally conquered the demons that haunted him at Augusta, returning to defend what he earned. Scottie Scheffler, the most reliable force in the modern game, arriving to reclaim what he believes belongs to him. Every headline, every expert prediction, every barbershop conversation points toward the same inevitable collision. It's not simply who will win the tournament, but who controls the defining moment when it finally arrives. Because when two forces of this magnitude meet at Augusta National, it stops being a golf tournament and becomes something else entirely. It becomes a statement about what the game is and who it belongs to. Rory is chasing something different. Now, not validation, not redemption from the past, but legacy in its purest form. Back-to-back Masters victories would place him in a distinct category of greatness reserved for players who did not simply win Augusta once, but owned it across time. This week is about proving that last year was not the end of a long and difficult chapter, but the beginning of something far greater. Your chasing legacy carries its own unique weight. It is quieter than the pressure he has known before, and somehow heavier because of that. It asks one deceptively simple question. Can you do it again when the entire world expects you to? Scheffler's pursuit is simpler on the surface. and somehow more dangerous because of that simplicity. Control. For months, he has been the most reliable force in professional golf. The player who turns every tournament he enters into a slow and inevitable takeover. Augusta represents something deeply personal for him. A chance to remind a watching world that consistency beats momentum every single time. That precision beats emotion when the stakes are highest. That he is still the standard every player on tour is quietly measured against. And unlike Rory, he does not need a compelling narrative or a redemption arc. He just needs clean execution. For 72 holes. And then there is Augusta itself, because this golf course does not belong to either of them. Never has, and it never will. It rewards patience above everything else, punishes ego without mercy or hesitation. It sits quietly and waits for the exact moment when confidence crosses the invisible line into assumption, and then it strikes with a precision that feels almost personal. Rory thrives when he is chasing something. Scheffler thrives when conditions are steady and controlled. But Augusta does not promise either man what he needs. It manufactures uncertainty out of thin air. And uncertainty changes everything about how this game is played at the highest level. Because this is not simply player versus player. It is identity versus identity. It's two completely different philosophies about what golf is and how it should be played, colliding on the most demanding stage the sport has ever produced. And at Augusta National, one mistake does not cost you a single shot. It costs you everything you came here to accomplish. Rory McIlroy does not need this win. That is what makes the whole thing so genuinely dangerous for everyone watching. He is already a legend by any honest measure. The career Grand Slam is complete. The story the entire golf world waited years to see written is finished. Everything he does at Augusta from this point forward exists in a space beyond ordinary validation. It is no longer about proving he belongs among the greats. It is about defining exactly how far his greatness can actually reach. Back-to-back Masters victories would not simply add another line to his already extraordinary record. It would elevate him into something permanent, something that cannot be qualified or argued away. But that is the seductive illusion of this particular moment in time. Because at Augusta, nothing is ever truly secure. Not for a single hour. Because standing across the fairway is a player who does not require a miracle to take everything away. Scottie Scheffler does not rely on magic or momentum or the kind of inspired brilliance that fills highlight reels. He does not chase moments of greatness. He simply waits for them with extraordinary patience. One missed fairway. One misread putt on a Sunday afternoon. One swing that drifts a fraction off its intended line at precisely the wrong time. That is genuinely all it takes. And when that moment arrives, Scheffler does not hesitate or second-guess himself. He closes, quietly, efficiently, and completely. Because while Rory is playing for legacy and everything that word carries with it, Scheffler is playing for opportunity. An opportunity in professional golf is brutally unforgiving to anyone who blinks at the wrong second. That is the truth. This sport conceals better than almost any other. Golf is not won through sustained dominance. It is lost in a single unguarded moment. You can control a round for 71 holes and surrender everything on the 72nd. You can build real momentum across 4 days of competition and watch it evaporate with one poor decision under pressure. Augusta amplifies that reality until it feels suffocating. The margins are thinner here than anywhere else. Consequences are sharper. And the pressure does not arrive all at once like a wave you can brace against. It lingers. It waits. Patient as the course itself, searching for the exact second you allow your guard to drop even slightly. So this is ultimately what everything comes down to, not brilliance in the abstract. It's not raw talent or tournament experience or the size of the crowd pulling for you. Just a line. Invisible and constantly shifting and impossible to hold on to forever. On one side of that line, Rory McIlroy becomes something more complete than even a champion. On the other, he becomes a reminder of how fragile greatness truly is when Augusta finally decides to collect. Because at this golf course, in this tournament, the entire difference between history repeating itself and history slipping quietly away comes down to a single moment. neither man can fully see coming.